Today, we were going to talk about a Texas congressman who has been criminally prosecuted for allegedly molesting his nanny. We're going to talk about what happened, the recent developments in the case, and what it means for both this individual and for society more broadly. I'm also going to answer the question whether or not he will go to prison. As always, if you want to know more, please stay tuned. This is gonna be a good one. Now, those are punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And there's also the counts of improper relationship between an employer and an employee, which is classified as a second-degree felony. In fact, in court documents, she said that she didn't feel like she had been assaulted. It's called a public official offense. She also suggested that perhaps the congressman's wife might have manipulated her into believing that she had been assaulted. Second, how common is this kind of behavior in society? And third, what should be done to punish people who engage in this kind of behavior? According to that complaint, she said that he made her feel uncomfortable by asking her about her sex life and then touching her inappropriately. Sadly, men in positions of power use their power to take advantage of women. Well, I believe in punishment that fits the crime, because they feel like it's embarrassing, or they feel like they don't want to get involved in politics, or whatever the case may be. If he's convicted, it will be interesting to see whether or not he serves any actual time in prison. Also, if you want more information about this case or others like it, please check out our other content where we publish multiple times per day. People talk about me being hot, but I'm really just here to talk about law. Unless you disagree with this take, then I'm hot. Either way, hit subscribe. Until next time, talk to you later. But the fact of the matter is, these are serious crimes and they need to be taken seriously. Many times people like this only stop when they get caught. And when they get caught, they need to be punished severely. And this crime is morally reprehensible. But I think it's important to keep in mind the difference between general deterrence and specific deterrence. General deterrence is punishing someone to make other people afraid of going and committing the same crime. Specific deterrence is punishing someone to make them less likely to commit the crime again. In this case, I think the goal should be specific deterrence. And that means putting him away for a long time. Putting him away for a long time will make him less likely to do this kind of thing in the future. It will also send a message to other people who have power that they need to use it responsibly. This is something that we see all the time, not just with politicians, but with bosses and teachers and coaches and priests. I've represented many women who have accused powerful men of taking advantage of them. These kinds of cases are very difficult to prove because most of the time the people in power threaten the women into silence. But when they don't, sometimes the justice system can step in and help. As a former prosecutor, I think the answer here is probably yes. I think he's going to jail. And here's why. There are a few things that make me think that he's going to jail. First, he's already been indicted. So a grand jury has already heard the evidence and decided that there is enough evidence to move forward with prosecution. Second, he's been publicly identified. This is not like a private prosecutor who's bringing this case. It's the government. They don't typically bring cases unless they think they can prove it. Third, he was investigated before and did it again. According to the allegations, he had a prior incident where he was accused of doing this kind of thing, but he did it again anyway. Fourth, the penalties here are very severe. He could face up to 60 years in prison. You don't put a guy through 60 years in prison unless you rate pretty confident about the case. And fifth, the evidence here is probably pretty strong. Why? Well, because he allegedly sent pictures of himself engaging in sexual conduct with this woman. So I think that the government has a pretty strong case. However, nothing ever came of that complaint. So he's been accused of this kind of behavior before. So essentially, the government is prosecuting this man, but the woman who he allegedly committed the crimes against does not want him prosecuted. This creates a bit of an issue because the government cannot prove a case like this without the cooperation of the victim. Victims usually have to testify, but in this case, she has indicated that she does not want to do that. She says that she does not remember anything like this happening. And basically, she feels like it's all a big misunderstanding. Each count of that could result in up to 20 years in prison. So as you can see, this guy is facing a potential of up to 60 years in prison. That is obviously a really big deal. If you like this video, give us a super thanks and we'll take that money and buy some nice things with it. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on here. It is worth noting that just because somebody has been charged with something doesn't mean that they are guilty. They are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So even though this sounds pretty bad, he's still innocent until proven guilty. A Texas congressman was indicted by a grand jury last week on charges of allegedly molesting his 21-year-old nanny. Now this all came out because his wife found explicit photos and videos on his phone and then confronted him about it. She later called the police and told them about the situation. So, apparently the alleged incidents occurred between March and June 2022. According to court documents, the Congressmember allegedly engaged in inappropriate sexual conduct with a woman who was employed by the family as a nanny. Specifically, the indictment alleges that he inappropriately touched her while she was doing her job. So he's been charged with 2 counts of assault, which is technically classified as a third-degree felony. And so far he has pleaded not guilty to all of these charges. Now, the funny thing about this case is that the victim in this case actually dropped all of her claims against the Congressmember. Now, the reason why the government can still prosecute him despite the fact that she does not want to cooperate is because under Texas law, when somebody is in a position of authority over another person, like a congressman, for example, over a nanny, then the state can prosecute these types of cases without the victim having to testify. Now, it is worth noting that this same congressman was the subject of a complaint back in 2018 from a different young woman who worked for him. The reason why we are talking about this case is that there are 3 interesting questions that come out of this. First, will he go to jail? Let's start with whether or not he'll go to jail. How common is this kind of conduct? Well, based on the number of cases that come across my desk every day, I would say that it's pretty common. What should happen to him if he's convicted? One of the things that is frustrating about cases like this is that many times the victims don't want the prosecution to go forward. This case will likely be followed closely by the media. And it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. If you like our summary, go ahead and give us a super thanks. As always, I'm here to talk about law.